We all knew this video was coming. Of course, we're going to be talking about the return of the Fiend, because since Randy Orton set him on fire, we haven't seen our beloved demon. Now, WWE are obviously playing long-term storytelling with the Fiend's return, and that makes perfect sense. I'm not worried, though. I do believe the Fiend will come back, and I understand it. So many people want him to come back now. The instant gratification of seeing how the storyline progresses, seeing how he looks now. Has he got a new look? Of course you want it today. It makes sense. But WWE are currently telling a story which I'm scared a lot of people are missing. And that's why I really wanted to make this video, because this story is so unique, so fun, and so cool that if you blink, you could miss it. Back at TLC, when the Fiend was doused in gasoline by Randy Orton and set on fire, we was all jaw-drop shocked. Nobody expected this to happen. We, as wrestling fans, were saying around that time that this seemed too soon, too rushed. TLC, the end of 2020, was not the time for probably one of the biggest stories of the Fiend's character, Randy Orton. Instead, we wanted it at Wrestlemania, the big stage, the big lights, the big story. And that's what WWE have found a way to give us. Royal Rumble, we believed the Fiend would come back because WWE wanted us to. Of course, Randy Orton spoke about the Fiend trying to cost him the Royal Rumble match. Well, nothing happened. Randy Orton didn't win the Royal Rumble. Much like the Elimination Chamber, we all expected the Fiend to return, the chamber to be set on fire, because WWE wanted us to. They want you to be hyped for the Fiend's return. Now, I understand it. This creates a problem. A lot of people can then say, well, the hype isn't real because it's not happening. That the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, has left WWE. He's never coming back. That the Firefly funhouse has been scrapped. They didn't like it. It's never coming back. Let's call a spade a spade. That's a load of shit. Spoken by people whose job it seemingly is to report wrestling but hate on everything WWE does. Not only those people, but genuinely people who rightfully may not like supernatural wrestling. Dumbasses. And I don't say that to insult people. I say it because the truth is the truth. Think about it. WWE could have very easily gone the generic storyline route with Randy Orton and The Fiend to prolong it till WrestleMania. We've seen it recently with Orton and Drew McIntyre. The back and forth matches for a championship that by the end of it you're pulling your hair out. And I know what you're thinking. It's because it was Raw. But SmackDown has been doing the exact same thing recently with Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens. A long series of matches stretching multiple pay-per-views to achieve the same thing. And that's exactly as well what AEW is doing with Moxley and Omega. They're currently going round the circle of doing the same thing again in a different way to get the same result. And while this is wrestling, while this is still entertaining, and these matches can be brilliantly fun, do you not just want to break that cookie cutter mold a little bit? And writing the Fiend off of television and delaying the inevitable is a great way to do it. The difference is, of course, this storyline's sort of been adopted by Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss had joined the Fiend before he was ridden off of television, and since, she has been playing the mind games with Randy Orton. Things have been going from OMG to a little bit crazy and a little bit wacky, to the ultimate cliffhangers that WWE could do, to the darkest, most deprived levels of insanity you can imagine. And this story is the one that's being told now. Yes, the story is The Fiend and Randy Orton, but right now the story is all about Alexa Bliss. And we have to give props to an entertainer who has basically entered someone else's story and made it all about her. There was genuine fears when she joined the funhouse that she was just going to be a sidekick to Bray Wyatt, that she was just going to play second fiddle to whatever the Fiend was doing, and no one was really going to care about her joining this major story in WWE. But time has proven differently. For over 60 days, Bray Wyatt has not been on WWE TV, and the major headlines have been all about Alexa Bliss. And there's no reason to fear, because he will come back to the WWE. The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, has not left WWE, as some of the morons say, and of course he will return. And WWE will keep you hyped for it. Every single Raw, potentially, although it may not be teased, could be the Raw that the Fiend returns. It could be at WWE Fastlane. Think about it. As we said, it made sense at the Rumble. It made sense at the Chamber. I'm sure it will make sense at Fastlane. And if not, there's always the biggest stage to bring back probably one of the biggest names in WWE today, The Fiend. But while that is happening, please don't ignore the story being told to you, because WWE will never get a chance to do this story again. Fans will come back, and although that's an amazing thing that I can't wait for, supernatural elements will be very, very hard to portray onto television, especially when you're watching live. And one of the things as a YouTuber that talks about this stuff, I can guarantee you, is every time I post a video about it, someone didn't know how it was done. And that's what WWE want to achieve. Personally, I think this is all building up to Randy Orton versus Alexa Bliss at WWE Fastlane. Now, it makes sense. If the Fiend is going to face Randy Orton at WrestleMania, you don't want to spoil the broth too soon. So, yes, the Fiend will come back, but again, at Fastlane, it makes sense that he does, because maybe he wants to protect Alexa. Or maybe he doesn't. Like the Royal Rumble, like the Elimination Chamber, it might make all the sense for the Fiend to return, but he might not. Remember, back in April of 2019 is when we got the debut of the Firefly funhouse. I know it's not from the same episode, but you know what I mean. The funhouse spanned absolute months. And during that time, we got the first glimpse of this masked character that was gonna reign evil over WWE. Even when we first saw the Fiend in a WWE ring, we didn't know much about him except he was called the Fiend and he was attacking WWE legends. It then took till SummerSlam for the Fiend to make his first entrance, and all eyes were on what was a short match, and people loved it because it was long-term storytelling and the eventual payoff that everyone had been waiting for. And that's exactly what we're getting again. Whether the Fiend changes his appearance or not, whether Bray Wyatt returns as the Fiend or not, if it's WrestleMania, even if it's all the way in SummerSlam, that might be a bit too long, WWE, the Fiend will come back. The story will continue and we'll get the eventual payoff. Have patience, and please, just try to enjoy the current story being told. Because I'm telling you now, this is once in a lifetime. It's something WWE will never do again in the same way. And although the circumstances surrounding this story's existence isn't the greatest, it's WWE making the best out of a bad situation and doing something while they can. Because I'm sure after WrestleMania, things will go back to the way they were before. Fans will be slowly reintroduced to the shows, and of course these kind of supernatural elements won't be possible. Now, I'm not just a Bray Wyatt fanboy here, I'm a wrestling fan. And I make these videos often, and I know the people that watch them love these videos, and I know that people that watch them love Bray Wyatt and The Fiend. If you didn't, bit weird you clicked on a video all about The Fiend. Nonetheless, like, share, subscribe. I'll see you next time. Peace!